So guys, I have just recently watched the Flash movie and here are my overall non-spoiler thoughts on the film. So overall, I really enjoyed the film. As a big massive Flash fan myself, I was very excited for this movie. Of course, we've seen a lot of promo material with this film. We of course knew that we were getting some returning characters and new characters as well. This film definitely did have a lot of hype going towards it, not just with the concept of the film and what's been teased from like the directors and just the higher ups in general, but also with the early reviews that came out. It really did build towards the hype I had for this film. So I did have a set expectation going into the film based on the early reviews, which I don't normally do, but there's been a lot of talk going into this film. And yes, big things do happen and there are some really cool moments, but I wouldn't say like the film is really up there with it being the best DCU film or something like that. It's really good, but for me it definitely isn't up there. Now, of course, as I said, this is going to be completely non-spoiler, so don't worry if you guys haven't seen the movie yet. I will not be spoiling anything. But yeah, the concept of this film is, of course, Flashpoint. There's a lot of inspiration taken from this comic book and essentially does serve as the main plot in this movie. Like, it is the main core storyline. It is Flashpoint. Now, of course, the movie does have its own spin on it. This isn't a spoiler, but of course, for those who aren't familiar with the Flashpoint comics, it's essentially that Barry Allen goes back in time, stops his mother from dying, and in doing so he creates an alternate timeline where things only begin to fall apart and get much worse. We've seen this in the trailers, and of course for those who know anything about Flashpoint, you would know this already, so this isn't a spoiler or anything like that. This is pretty much just, shall we say, the synopsis of the film. Now, the storyline was handled very well for what they went for. It's Flashpoint, but of course with their own spin. It's not directly copy-paste from the comic books. A lot of things are very different, but like when you do notice, like when you have read the Flashpoint comics and you know what the Flashpoint comics are about, and then when you see the film, there are a lot of inspirations taken from it, and like when you see the film you're like, oh okay, wait, they're doing this is really cool. I did really like how you're able to like easily pinpoint what similarities there are compared to the comic book and the film. As I said, they are very different, but there are a lot of similarities. This film does pay homage to previous events that took place in the DCU, but also there are a lot of really cool, interesting dots connected to past moments, which I found really cool, and it does help everything come full circle, I feel like. Now, the storyline was quite easy to follow for the most part. The film is really well structured, where you do see how every moment is going to lead up to the next. It's very well structured based on that. And you do really see the build up to Barry getting to that Flashpoint stage where he's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create Flashpoint. And I would say the film does do a really good job at like just setting everything up and handling all of that. I thought it was handled really well. Now, this isn't a spoiler, it is seen in the trailers, but we do revisit the events of Man of Steel and General Zod's invasion, so it was really cool to have the storyline go back to where it all started. It isn't as much as you would have thought it to be, because the promo did show it as like a big thing. Like, it showed this as the main like climactic event taking place, and although yes it is, it's not as much as you think. But there are a lot of Man of Steel callbacks and events taking place, which once again was very well handled. And as I said, once again, it makes everything come full circle. It just felt really nice going back to those moments. Now, from start to finish, the film is very action-packed, and genuinely every character definitely has a big moment where they do shine. Like, you do have a specific moment where the Flash shines, and the Flash does shine a lot in the film. You do have moments where Ben Affleck's Batman shines, you do have moments where Michael Keaton's Batman shines, and you do have those moments when Sasha Calle's Supergirl does shine. I did really like how each character was given that time to shine, and you do really get to see like a good full potential and power traits of these different characters, and it was just very cool to see. Now, Nora Allen, I would say, is like the main source of emotion in the film. Like, you do of course have her tragic murder, which does play a big role in this film, because of course this is all about Flashpoint. But like anytime like you have Barry interacting with his like mother and things like that, like it does have some really, really just well handled emotions and very good interactions between Nora Allen and Barry, which I did really like. Now, despite being a very, very action packed film, the start did feel quite slow at times, and then things for me started to eventually pick up as we progressed throughout the film, where in the third act it was absolutely incredible, and the third act definitely does steal the show by miles. Some of the visual effects were really cool, and a lot of the flashy action and fight scenes were incredible and just very, very pleasing to watch. The way they showcased the Flash's abilities and power traits were awesome, very visually pleasing, and he does do some like new stuff which you haven't really seen the Flash do before. And of course, if you have watched the Flash TV show, he does do very similar abilities that you do see on the TV show. However, it did stand out as unique compared to the variety of powers we see the character have on the TV show. I did really like how they were able to differentiate between, like, you know, the power traits the movie version of the Flash has and the TV show version has. Of course, there are the similarities, but I do really like how, like, visually it was handled a lot differently as well. Now, in terms of what I didn't like about the film, going for Flashpoint as the first film felt a bit off. I felt like we needed something more, like we needed more of an emotional impact, and we needed to see Barry go through more, I feel like, before Flashpoint is set up. Like, with what they went for in the film, yes, it worked, but in my opinion, we needed more of that emotional impact before it came to that stage. Now, some of the story decisions they went for, which I don't agree with, but I can't really get into it without talking into spoilers, and of course I will get into that eventually, but for now, like, I will say there are some story decisions that I wasn't really a fan of, and the CGI in a lot of the points were really, really poor, and I was actually questioning whether this might have been a budget thing where they ran out of budget to like polish up the CGI or something, but a lot of the points the CGI was not good at all, and it definitely was the biggest weak point for me. Now, going into the characters, Barry Allen, aka The Flash, our main character, what will I say about The Flash in this film? Now, I will start off by saying that I never saw Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. That way, I genuinely do think Ezra Miller is a miscast. And when Andy Muschietti said that he doesn't think anyone could have played the character better than Ezra Miller has, I completely disagree. However, Ezra Miller, without a doubt, stole the show in the film and definitely does take the MVP spotlight. Like, Barry Allen in this film was great for the version Ezra played around with. Like, as I said, I don't see Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, but Ezra Miller did kind of do this thing where they took the character and transformed it into their own. That way, like, with Ezra Miller's version of Barry Allen, what they went for did work, and like the emotion and just the character progression this character goes through in the film definitely was MVP in my opinion. Now, we do of course have two types of Barry Allen in this film, one as the one we follow and the other one known as the younger Barry Allen, and genuinely Ezra played both of those characters very differently, although it is the same person, and for me that was really good. Like, for the older one, he is much more experienced, and that way, like, you know, he's also much older, therefore he's much more mature and knows what he's doing. Whereas the younger one, he's of course much more newbie, he's much more nerdy, geeky, way more out of control and immature, and of course less experienced. And the way he was, like, he differentiated himself between those two characters, and you do very clearly see the difference between those two characters. The way Ezra played both of those versions of the character, despite it being the same character at the same time, I genuinely thought that they did a really, really good job at it. Like, the dynamic with the two Barry Allens as well, I thought was a lot of fun. And the way both of these versions of the character are developed in this film, it was very well handled. Sometimes the humor and certain interactions, I would say, with especially with the younger Barry, I would say it was a bit too dialed up and felt like way too over the top at times. But other than that, Ezra genuinely did a very, very good job. And Barry Allen definitely did steal the show in his own film, which is good because that's what you want. You do want the main character to stand out the most, and that is what did genuinely happen. Now, of course, in terms of the other characters, we did have Batman. Firstly, Ben Affleck's Batman. It was really cool seeing him back, and I genuinely did enjoy just having him return, but also giving him one hell of a badass action sequence. Definitely some really, really cool Batman sequences. And Ben Affleck, I do know he did say something along the lines of like he really, really enjoyed playing this version of Batman the most, and he's really had fun with this version compared to like the other times he's appeared as Batman. And you could really tell that like he was genuinely like really, really badass and just really cool to watch in this film, especially as well. He was very well used in the film, not only as Batman. He doesn't have much of a big role, but does also have like a core scene with Barry, and it is a great one-on-one scene, which of course I will not talk about in detail because of course this is no spoilers. In terms of Michael Keaton, who is the other Batman returning, he was absolutely freaking amazing. You can just easily tell Michael Keaton had a blast returning as this character, and he does have a lot of badass moments where he absolutely shines. Seeing his character arc throughout the film was something I did really enjoy seeing. It's very different, and it does really work with what they went for, and the way his character progressed in this film, it was really cool. And damn, his Batman action sequences, I just wanted to see more of it, because hearing that OG 89 music, seeing him in the suit again, and the fight choreography he had, all of which just absolutely just stole the show. And without a doubt, he was definitely one of the bigger highlights in this film as well. He does also have some incredible one-on-one scenes with Barry, which once again, when you see the film, you will know what I'm talking about. Now, the latest addition to the DCU, and a very good fresh take, is that of Sasha Calle's Supergirl. Sasha Calle was very enthusiastic for this role, and she was very, very excited for this role. Once again, just like the other characters, she did have her moments to shine, and genuinely her fight scenes were really, really cool to watch. You do see quite some power traits of Supergirl. You don't really see like everything a Kryptonian is able to achieve, but you do see her power traits. You do see how incredibly powerful she is. And the film does bring in this really cool way, which shows exactly how a Kryptonian's abilities work. And with that, I appreciated what they did with Supergirl a lot more as well. Her character felt a bit rushed, but the way she ties into everything worked really well. And once again, she did have a really cool storyline. She fits into the plot really well. And like, you know, her conflict with Zod was really cool. And also her interactions with Barry Allen was something I did really, really like as well. There are some cameos and surprise characters, so yeah, be on the lookout for those, some of which are really cool, some of which I would say was a bit unnecessary and could have been replaced with others, but you know, it did serve the purpose of what they were trying to do. And in terms of the ending for the film, of course this is no spoiler, so I will not say anything spoilery, don't worry. But all I will say is that the ending did what it needed to do. I know the ending has been changed, and we will of course talk about that when I break down the ending more in detail, when of course I am able to go into spoilers as well. But you do get surprised. It is a cool cliffhanger, so I guess be on the lookout for that as well. But yeah, overall I will say I was very, very satisfied with what we had in the film. As I said, there's a lot of stuff which they could have done a lot better, but overall, you know, the film, it did what it needed to do. They did a really good job in incorporating Flashpoint, but also, you know, doing their own spin on it, doing a fresh new take on it. And of course, they did a good job in bringing in like the Flash character and giving him his own movie in the big screens as well. So as I said, having those returning characters as well as new faces, it was really cool seeing all of it. And genuinely, I did enjoy this film a lot. Not just with the storyline of Flashpoint and like, you know, the cool action sequences we had with various different characters, but also going right into the roots of like the emotion behind this whole storyline. It worked really well with what they went for. However, I would say there were things that they could have done a lot better. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about this film. I'm interested to see all of your thoughts towards all of it as well. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.